All right, guys. So we're gonna begin here. This chapter, I'm pretty much gonna tell you kind of how my life was before all this. I mean, if you don't know, I was born in Colombia. I'm South American. I was raised in Florida, in South Florida. And when I came here, my body went through a very dramatic diet change. And as I feel like if you're an immigrant, you kind of understand what that is. If you're not a foreigner, then you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, as a foreigner in Colombia, we were always eating different variety of foods. You know, when I was super young in my little village school, because it was a really small school. I don't think it was in the city, but it was like super tiny. Um, they always made like fresh food for us. It was always like lentils, beans, meat, chicken, like a lot of like organic juice. Well, at the time they were not organic; they were just juices, and they were all like super clean and super pure. And that's pretty much like what I ate growing up until I was about 8 years old. Um, when I was around 8 years old, again, I came here to the States. We moved here in South Florida, and everything was very different. The diet, I remember growing up, we only had like at lunch was like at 10:30 in the morning or 11, and that was it. And I couldn't believe I was like starving by the time I got home. And it was crazy. I was like, what is this? Like, I thought you had like a breakfast and a lunch, like, I did back in Colombia, because that's the way we did it. We had like a breakfast and then we had a lunch, then we played for like an hour and a half, and then we went back to studying and stuff. Obviously, when I came here, it was not like that. Everything was very closed off. Um, Chicken nuggets and like ketchup and mayo was like the lunch, and it was like at 10 in the morning. So it wasn't really a lunch, it was like a breakfast with like chocolate milk and like bread. Obviously, at the time, I mean, it was weird for me adjusting to it. Um, so, that I feel like that adjustment kind of had, a little bit of shock in my body over time from going to be eating like whole foods to pretty much extremely processed food. Obviously, at the time, I didn't know any of this. So, I mean, you just do what you got to do. So we got that reduced breakfast and that reduced lunch because, it's all we could afford. And, at first, I think I got it for free. Then I qualified, or then I guess we got richer. And then we became, reduced lunch. It was like 40 cents or something. It was ridiculous. Thinking back, I don't even know how they make their money. It's interesting. It's insane. So yeah, before that, I mean, I grew up just eating that way. Eventually, when I was about like 15 years old, I think it's when I started getting really into like fitness. And I say fitness because I had an idea of what fitness was like for my body. Again, this is just me. And I started doing pretty much what every 15-year-old kid, like hormones are raging, like you do what everybody else does, which is, you take your protein, you take your pre-workout, you do all these things, and eventually it did help me out a lot, like even with all those chemicals, it really, really, really like helped my mind a lot of the time because I was going through a lot of family issues, and you know how it is. I mean, I think we all, that age for a lot of us is very difficult depending on, where you come from, but adjusting to the culture, life, you're a teenager, you're going through all these different emotions, I think you guys understand. And that, working out really, really helped me, like really helped me a lot doing all that. Over time, I felt a lot better mentally, physically, obviously I was getting pretty jacked for my body weight. And yeah, I mean, everything was really good. A few years later, I graduated like everybody else. It's like, what the hell do I do? At the time, I decided not to go to college. It was pretty much out of my control. It was just things that were happening in life. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to start something else. I'm going to start something that something that no one's doing. At the time I came upon music, and I decided to become a music producer. And I just, started studying like an animal. That's all I did. Just study, music. Obviously, there was an event that triggered that passion. I mean, I've listened to dance music for a very long time. And listening to that really put me in a different state of mind. So I was like, you know what? I ended up going to Ultra Music Festival in Miami, which is like a rave. It's like a huge rave. And I literally fell in love with what I felt and the way the music made me feel. The way, it was just everybody was happy, nobody was judging. At the time I wasn't really the cool kid in school. So obviously feeling accepted in like a collective of people was an amazing feeling for me. So I was like, you know what, I really want to be part of this community. Why not start making the music, that everybody else was doing, that they were doing at the time. And that's how I got into it. I pretty much at the time, there was no, like, YouTube was still kind of new. I mean, we all knew about it, but not really educational as it is now. So I literally got my book with one of my good friends that he introduced me to, like, the software. And we just started hammering down, like learning everything about music and DJing and all that. I mean, my friend was a lot more talented with melodies. I really had to study my ass off because I did not understand it. Like, did not come to me naturally. Obviously, like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And over time, it started paying off. It was super hard. But, it really became the focus of my life. It just became something that's all I did. Like, literally, I said no to almost everything. I barely ever went out. I didn't care, like, nothing. It was just me and music. And that's all I focused on. And that was like my, just me doing that. Obviously during that time, I still, worked out a lot. I just kept going. I started in this cycle of like never stopping, or it was always like either the gym or music or work, or another little course here and there, and again and again and again and again, to a point where I never really went out. I never really had any friends. My people that I knew were like people where I worked. And, I started, I had this habit of always like binging on like popcorn. That was like my thing. And, obviously I started, just keep doing that and doing that for years. And eventually, yes, I did accomplish a lot of great things with my body and physically. And I thought it was, I thought I was, really good. I felt good. I was able to eat pretty much everything. But a lot of the food that I was eating was very processed, like very, very processed. I was eating yogurts full of sugar. Long story short, I wasn't eating very healthy. Um, doing like super cheap proteins and protein bars and stuff that now I realize that if you're not, if your body's not really in a really, really good shape, a lot of those things, they're really, you don't really need those. It's kind of stupid. But then again, hey, everybody's body's different and everybody does whatever they need to do. So yeah, that was pretty much my lifestyle. I had zero awareness of my body. I thought I did because I was doing what everybody else was doing. And, I followed the trends. I followed the pre-workout, the creatine and all that. And don't get me wrong, these things work, but you just have to do your research to know which ones are the really good ones and the ones that are actually, really good. A lot of the stuff out there that exists nowadays, and existed back then too, was trash. It was literally just chemicals, like pure chemical. But then again, you don't know what you don't know, so you're just doing. At the time also, I was very frustrated living where I was living. It was not really my cup of tea. Like I guess as a foreigner, I never really felt very, in touch with the community and the culture out there. I just saw very differently. I approached things very differently. And to me, the people out there were just, I felt like a complete outsider. And I think I got treated in a way like a complete outsider as well. Because I don't know, it was just, even though I was raised there, I still had a very different mindset. I decided to move away. I moved away to Tallahassee first. And then after Tallahassee, I ended up going to Los Angeles, and being in Los Angeles, it was a great experience. It was a really, really good experience. It was very different, completely different than what I expected. Had a really good time there, but, that's just where things started getting really, really like intense for me because I was, there but then I had gone there specifically for music. I guess like a lot of artists and producers and musicians go there, actors, to chase their dream. And I developed a habit of completely just not going and going and going and not stopping. What I meant by that was I would wake up at 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, go to work, and then I would get home like at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night every single day. Like every single day, like Monday through Friday. I mean, obviously there were days where I kind of went out with friends and stuff, but for the most part, that's just all I did. Eventually I started to develop, obviously, because I'm on the street all the time. I'm out on the roads, like, networking with people, trying to figure out what to do. It's a freaking massive city. So I started eating really worse than I did before. I mean, before it wasn't that bad, but now I was eating like Chipotle every single day. I was eating like fast food everywhere I went. And yeah, I mean, I just kept this habit for like about 6, 7 months, every single day, just every day, nonstop. And eventually I started, feeling pains and feeling weird things that I've never really felt before. And that was really strange for me because I've never been somebody having pains. I mean, I got to a point in the gym where I was doing like gymnastic rings, like calisthenic workouts, very like extreme, like I guess just body workouts because I was more into that. And my body, like my body weight, I'm not meant to freaking, bench 600 pounds. It's just not my body. So I would lean more towards the calisthenics and all that. But eventually, again, me waking up in the morning, first of all, my breakfast was not good at all. Going to the gym, pumping myself with pre-workout or whatever, going for like an hour and a half, and then going to work, and then doing music stuff. My body was always on this nonstop, like adrenaline mode, like I guess in a way, fight or flight mode, nonstop. The only time my body would actually rest was when I went to sleep, but then obviously that wasn't even enough to rest and recover. Then LA is a really big city. There, a lot of people live there in the same ways. I met people there who were living in their cars for weeks and months. People who literally just parked somewhere and just slept and then just kept living like that for months and months. And I thankfully at the time I had a room. I was living with my uncle at the time, and I had a place to stay. At least I had a shelter over my head, compared to a lot of the people I met out there. Some very amazing people, but they were in the same situation that I was in. A lot of these people, they were also chasing their dream, which was a beautiful thing to see because, coming from a place where nobody really has any dreams, or maybe they do, but not the ones that I relate to. It was cool just seeing that, that contrast. But a lot of them, they were living in really shitty conditions. Like I said, sleeping in cars, I think you've probably slept in a car before and it's not really that comfortable. Maybe you sleep once there, 2 days, maybe tops, but after that, your back starts to get messed up. But anyway, that was pretty much what I started, my lifestyle up to that point, and it's starting to build up, started getting weird pains, weird muscle pains in my back. I don't know, I just started feeling weak and weaker as time went on. And I was like, this is really interesting. I thought that I needed to eat more. I was like, you know what? I need to really eat more and more because, the more you eat, the more you bulk up. And looking back, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? But hey, that's what you do because that's what everybody else does. So, I came to a point where, and this is where I'm going to end it here because this is where things start to get really interesting. I used to go to this LA fitness gym in Los Angeles, like right next to Universal Studios. And it was really cool. I got to meet a lot of actors that you saw on the shows, on Netflix, and movies and stuff. But, I started again, feeling very weak and over time, I felt like I was just exhausted, exhausted. Every time I would go there, I'm like, why am I so tired? But obviously, you don't know what you don't know. And then you just keep doing it because, you don't want to lose, your jackness. You don't want to lose your gains, So yeah, so this is where I'm going to end it here because after this is where things started getting really, really interesting. In obviously the accident, I guess you could call it. And yeah, I mean, again, thank you for reaching this far right now. I'm gonna go ahead and start the other video because it's gonna be very, and this is where I was, like everything kind of started falling apart, and everything just came down after this. Kind of like a few weeks of me feeling like total crap. This was around June of 2000, or not June, sorry, it was May, between April and May of 2018, so exactly almost 4 years ago. But anyway, stay tuned for the next one. Again, thank you so much for staying listening this far if you have, and I'll see you in the next one, okay?